What's up, everybody? Gareth here. Today we're going to be getting inside the mind of Adam Cheyer, the co-founder of Siri that sold to Apple and Steve Jobs, and also the co-founder of Viv Labs that recently sold to Samsung. Adam, thanks for coming on.
Sure, glad to be here, Garrett.
Where did the name Siri come from?
Oh, that's a great question. So the name Siri, um, well, we wanted to create an assistant. We wanted a human-like name that was not too common, not like Bob or Jim. We needed something interesting. We wanted it to be short because we wanted, you might have to type it into your phone, and easy to pronounce. So we came up with a list of like 20 possible names that met these criteria and that we could get the domain name for not too much money, hopefully. And everyone had different reasons, but Siri was clearly the name that rose to the top. And so when people say, well, what does Siri mean? The official meaning of Siri is from our CEO. CEO, he gets the official name, official meaning. He's Norwegian American, Dag Kitlaus. And Siri means beautiful woman who will lead you to victory. And it's kind of a Norse goddess metaphor. So that's the official meaning. I have two favorite meanings myself. One is Siri means secret in Swahili. And a secret is something I've figured out that not a lot of people know, like a magic trick, right? And we started out our company, literally our domain name was stealthcompany.com with a dash. And we had this whole motif, stay low, move fast, and we had a ninja logo, and like we weren't going to tell anybody. And it was kind of a fun cultural thing. So Siri means secret. It's kind of a tip of the hat back to our stealth company days. And the second meaning for me is that before Siri, I was working on a project at SRI. It was the largest AI project in government funded history, $250 million over 5 years, 400 people from the top universities working on it. And the core system I built there was called Iris. And so I like parent-child names that have a relationship to each other, not the junior thing, but my name, for example, is Adam, and my son's name is Noah. If you think about it, both have 4 letters, both are biblical names, and both really are the fathers of everyone. Adam was the first human, and Noah, we're all descendant from Noah because of the great flood. And you can't shorten them. There's no nicknames for Adam or Noah. So there's a relationship between me and my son. And in a similar way, I see Iris as the mother of Siri and Siri the child. And if you think about it, there's a relationship. The two words are the same, just backwards. So for me, those are my favorite meanings for the name Siri.
What was it like to sell Siri to Steve Jobs?
Funny story. So I had mentioned we had launched a free app in our app store, one of 2 million apps at that time. And, it came out and it was pretty popular. We're getting good reviews. My favorite was a tweet that said, it's like someone came out of the future and said, here, you've got to try this app. So we were excited. And about 2 weeks later, the phone rings. We hear, hey, it's Steve. What you doing? Want to come over to my house tomorrow? And we're like, Steve Jobs, how'd you get this number? Now, we were very secretive. We had no website, no sign on the door, and no phone number anywhere. We're like, how did he get this number? It felt like he was, omniscient somehow. Anyway, we went to his house the next day. We talked for about 3 hours about the future, about technology, about industries. He and I got into our first combative argument. He said, Adam, should Apple buy, and he named a company. I'm not going to name it here. And I said, no, definitely not. And he said, what? Why not? Why not? And we started going at it. And I'm like, well, because of this and because of this and because of this. And afterwards he said, okay, I'm going to think about that, maybe. And that taught me a lot about who Steve Jobs was. He had a desperate passion to win. And he never felt, even given all his accomplishments, he never felt that he was necessarily right or necessarily the smartest person in the room. He wanted so much to win and to be right. He didn't need to be the one who was right. But if you couldn't defend your position with data, with facts, with reasoning, he would knock you aside and say, hey, don't waste my time, right? He didn't have time for incompetence. But if you could defend, he was interested. Anyway, we had these interactions. At the end of the meeting, he made it clear he wanted to buy our company. And so obviously we said, no, we're not interested. Thank you. Goodbye. Very flattered. And we left. And that could have been the end of the story. But he came back about a month later with Scott Forstall. He basically gave us the pitch about why it'd be better to work with Apple and change the world and be independent. And he convinced us he understood the vision that we had deeply, very, very deeply, the ins, the outs. He knew what we were doing, where we were going, and why. And he promised that he wouldn't just make us a feature. He wanted Siri to be an important component of every interface that Apple put out. Every device, every experience should be Siri enabled. And so we joined. We went through probably the fastest due diligence in entrepreneurship history. We had a contract to ship on tens of millions of phones, including Blackberries, Androids, everything. And we couldn't get out of the contract, but Steve says, I'll make that go away. And I'm like, but we can't, we've signed. He goes, I'll make it go away. And so the deal for Apple closed the day before we were going to launch on tens of millions of competitor devices, basically. So yeah, that was the story of how we ended up at Apple.
What was the most memorable discussion you had with Steve?
I had many, and they're all fun, but I'll pick my favorite. My personal favorite was we had done this early app, but once you join Apple, like all of that's in the past, right? It's only about what are you guys going to do in the future. And at Apple, every Monday, there would be demo day throughout the entire company. It was hierarchical. So you would demo to your manager, and then later on, it would, when the manager was happy, it would go up to his manager and on. And eventually it would hit Steve, and you would have a demo meeting for Steve with Steve of your product and how it's progressing. And the design team is there and the engineers are there. And they were showing Steve what they were going to do, the designers. And Steve looked at this and said, no, this is terrible. Go back and look at the original Siri app. There are subtleties in the animation. There's a reason for what they've done. Study it, understand it, and then come back to me with a new design. And he was like yelling at these poor people. But I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, I love this guy. Yes, like we had so much thought and love and care and detail put into our first initial app. And I felt a lot of it was being lost to history and kind of not considered in the subsequent version. And he understood the nuances and the detail and remembered those aspects. And so for me, it kind of summed up everything that was great about Steve Jobs. Is he knew a vision, he's fighting forward, but he understood design and technology inside and out, and he cared about every minute detail, and he noticed the details and was really, really pushing that in a strong way with the designers. And that for me was one of the most endearing moments that I had, even though he was like destroying some poor designers in the process.
Can you tell us about the VSG method?
VSG, verbally stated goals. So if someone were to ask me, what's your best advice? What's your greatest tool that's led you to whatever success you've had? I would say verbally stated goals is my number one most important thing to tell not only entrepreneurs how to achieve success in business, but to anyone about how to achieve success in life. So here's how it works. the life that we have here on this planet is the most valuable gift that we have. The time here spent is irreplaceable, and it's the most valuable gift we have. It is our obligation to make the most of it, because otherwise you're wasting the greatest gift anyone has ever given. I don't know how it is I'm here, but I know I have a responsibility to make the most of the time that I have on this planet. So how do you do that? If you think about life like a book has chapters. No book just has one story. And life is the same. People change. You're a different person at different phases of your life, right? So there are these chapter change moments. Maybe you've just graduated from college and now you have to figure out where to go into the world. Maybe you've just gotten married. You're a different person with different responsibilities than you were before, right? There are these chapters. So many people fear change. They fear, oh my gosh, I just got fired from my job. Oh my gosh, a pandemic has happened. Oh my gosh, this happened or that happened. They fear change. But I've come to relish change, and because it means you're coming to an end of a chapter. If you're not happy, if there's something that you're not satisfied with, you're obliged to change your chapter. Do not be unhappy for an extended period of time, because you're wasting your life, you're wasting your gift. So when you come to that moment, here's what to do. You first need to take the raw core emotion of what am I feeling right now, and let it boil into your chest until it really feels like it's in your core. And take that emotion and then turn it into words. And those words should capture what you're feeling, and each word should be important. It sometimes takes me weeks or even months to synthesize what's important to me now, and how should I change that? How do I translate that into a mission statement? And once you have it, and I'll give you a few examples in a minute, you should tell every person that you meet, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm doing now. Even if you have no idea how you're going to pull this off, you have no idea how you're doing it. If it's important to you, you define it in a measurable way, and then you tell people, this is the verbally stated part. You tell people, this is what I'm going to do. And just by stating this statement, putting this statement into the world and committing to it, it does two things. One, if you've told 100 people, you start to believe it. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see those people again. They're going to be at the next holiday party. They're going to ask me, I better get working on it, right? Just by telling people helps you commit to achieving that goal. The second benefit is people will come up and help you. They'll say, oh, I have an idea, or I know this person, or maybe I can help you in this way. So verbally stated goal, it's when you're coming to a chapter change in your life, then you feel the core emotion, you express it in words, and you tell everyone you meet, this is what I'm doing now. And I can tell you the story of my life in terms of chapters. When I graduated college, the first thing that was important to me was getting a foreign perspective. My grandfather walked down the street, he spoke 7 languages. I had never been anywhere. I wanted a foreign perspective. I had no idea how I was going to get there and figure it out, but I told everyone, I'm going to do this. And I ended up living in France for 4 years. At one point in my life, I had had lots of girlfriends, pretty, smart, educated, everything I could want. But I didn't feel like I was in love. I didn't know if I could feel love. And that became an important question to me. One of my verbally stated goals. Can I fall in love? Maybe some people can and some people can't. Maybe it's just a myth Hollywood tells us. And I met the person that I've been with for 25 years now. Every day, I'm absolutely in love. And so by expressing things, putting them into the world, it opens you to the possibility, it commits you, people help, and it comes true. And I'll tell you, my most productive entrepreneurship verbally stated goal In the early to mid 2000s, I was getting frustrated with my job. I was feeling stifled. That was one emotion. Like I had all these ideas, but I couldn't politically get them out. And I needed to create. So it was like really the stifled plus creativity bursting. And so my verbally stated goal for 2007 was 5 projects that can impact users, because what I had been working on wasn't getting out to matter to someone. 5 projects that can impact users in 2007. It's quantifiable, it's ambitious, and it's a goal. And so I created 5 prototypes, and built versions that I could show people, get feedback, try them out, and kind of get into the problems and just think about them by writing software. And my 2008 goal was 1 major, 1 minor. Take the best 2 ideas out of the 5 and start companies around them. And as I mentioned, actually 3 of those projects started as companies. So Siri was my day job, Sentient my night job, and Change.org spun out into its own company, and took off. So that was one of my many verbally stated goals. But yeah, that's my best idea, my best tool for entrepreneurs or just anyone who wants to lead a successful life.